according to the research, trying to make things right actually is just as powerful in trust building, not damage control, but actual trust building, because it shows the person not that you're human. Well, we all know that. It's that you actually care about living up to the expectations, that the expectations you set actually are still true enough that when something falls apart, you will do what is necessary to fix it. That means I can still count on you, because I count on you to do it right or fix it if it doesn't go right. Strengthening how we do what we do, finding a way to do it better, so that just like that 17-year-old at Chick-fil-A who you trust has the ability to just make you a new set of fries if your fries are cold. They can just go do it. They don't have to talk to a manager. Like empower your team to actually meet the bids of your clients and customers, and just make sure you're doubling down on what works. And so I would encourage people, in times of uncertainty, you don't need to do more if you do what you do currently better.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of The Freedom Experience. I'm your host, John Moncrief, and today my guest is Kevin B. Jennings. He's a man whose energy, whose stories, and whose lust for life will really kind of fire you up a bit. So Kevin is the CEO of Junction 32, where he helps small business owners to grow their brands and to boost revenue so that they can go out there and truly make an impact in the world. But he's served with some of the world's most trusted voices, folks like Tony Robbins, Dave Ramsey, Oprah Winfrey, and many more. And whether he's working with these best-selling authors or Inc. 5000 companies or small businesses like ourselves, Kevin's mission is always the same: bring out the best in people's careers, their ideas, and their lives so they can experience the joy of serving others through a purpose-driven life. Kevin's one of the most talked about speakers from this year's Small Giants Summit. It's where I met him, and the community is still abuzz with comments on his energy and his storytelling capabilities. So this conversation really became super special for me because I discovered this connection, this common connection that Kevin and I have with Clint Smith, who was originally Kevin's boss and who was in my passport group decades ago. And it's kind of come full circle. So this was a really special episode for me. Anyway, we talk about three key things here: how these small everyday moments that Kevin refers to as bids are the real currency of trust, and we'll go into those later in the episode. Why marketing done right is just serving people who truly need what you offer. And Kevin's refreshing take on building a personal brand as a reputation you actually earn. So he's a lovely human being, and when he's not helping brands to grow, you're going to find Kevin out there DJing weddings with some of his lifelong friends. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. It's full of energy, so let's get into it with Kevin. Okay, Kevin, welcome to the show. Thank you for giving us time. I'm super excited about today.
Honored to be with you. And again, I've gotten to deal with your team through this process, and you've got a great person taking care of things to make sure people like me get a great experience long before we show up today.
That is so important. And I know Courtney works hard in the background, and the team. So we really appreciate that. And I think that's what we're going to be talking about today is how you're building trust with your brand. Sometimes it goes wrong, and how do we rebuild that trust? What are the little things we can do? What are the things that don't cost us a fortune? But before we get into that, like, we met at Small Giants at a Small Giants Summit recently, and you told some fantastic stories. How did you get into where you are at the moment? And how did you land up on this mission?
Yeah, so my origin story on business is not from business at all. I wanted to be a professional songwriter and music producer, and my family was very supportive of it. But then, when you're a young person, you hear about pursuing a career in art, people start trying to warn you about how you're likely going to be hungry, and so pretty early on, I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to have to do this and making money's hard, I'm going to have to figure out how to make money doing it. So I did what any person does. Instead of playing my guitar more, I went to the library and got a book on contracts called Everything You Know About the Music Business. And I started reading it around 14 or 15 years old, which was probably the sign that I was more into business than I was into music.
Yeah, 14 years old.
Craft,
yeah.
Right. And so working on my craft, I'm like, I'll read an artist contract and understand how they make money. And that was probably an inkling of where my brain really understood. And I started seeing the artistry, honestly, in business very early. Like I was like, oh, so that's how things work, and that's how things come together. Um, and so I thought I was still going to do music. So when I went to college, I studied music business at Belmont University in Nashville, and which was really exciting, and I loved that experience. Then they launched an entrepreneurship program, and I knew I wanted to work for myself. And that happened because my first job, I showed up reading that book. I was at Chuck E. Cheese, the little kids amusement
Yeah,
arcade
yeah.
center here and my it was a terrible first job. It was absolutely terrible, and it was what I needed. It was a nice wake up call. I was like, "Oh, this is what work is like." Oh my gosh!
So
And I
what was it
told
about Chuck E. Cheese that you didn't enjoy about that job? Was it just yeah,
it was well. I think in in hindsight, your manager's 22,
yeah,
right? 21 years old. His friends have gone off to college. He's staying at home, not going to school, managing teenagers at Chuck E. Cheese.
yeah,
Well, that's probably the only place where he feels powerful in life. So he's abusing his power. He's using this leadership role to probably feel some kind of hole in his heart he should see a therapist about, right? And in response, I thought to myself, man, if this and I was working really hard. I mean, I would work just weekends because I still was in school, but I would work from 6 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon until 2 a.m. because Chuck E. Cheese closed at midnight, which makes no sense. Why are kids at Chuck E. Cheese at
and
midnight? But that's another conversation. And so and I do the same thing on Sunday. I said, man, if work's going to be hard, I want to enjoy the work.
yeah, love it.
And that was my little 15-year-old brain trying to synthesize what's going on. And I also said, and if I have to work the rest of my life, I'd rather work for myself. And that was and I was like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I don't know what I'm gonna build yet. I don't know, but at the time I said I'll just do music and that'll be it. So fast forward, my university actually launches an entrepreneurship center and program. They bring in this really amazing professor uh, out from Wisconsin. He launches the program, and it was amazing. So I double majored in music business and entrepreneurship, and it just changed the trajectory of my career. And one of the guest lecturers was a gentleman by the name of Clint Smith from a company called Emma Email Marketing here in town.
Clint used to be with
And
Small
and
Giants years ago. He was in my round table.
that,
Clint
that, that
Smith, Emma,
and
yeah.
that's right. And he's the one who gave me the very small giant book that changed the trajectory of things. And
Okay.
so I ended up took a job out in Portland, Oregon with a competitor that was actually covered in my business plan for my core business, and stayed in contact with Clint. He was just kind of like a mentor from afar. When I moved back to Nashville, he said, "Hey, you can apply for a job with us." And while I was there, learned about small giants. And so that's kind of this thing. But the work
Got
I
it.
got into from there, I just recognized working for Clint. So all kind of building on each other. But while working for Clint, we were I'm on the sales team, so I'm selling email marketing
Yeah, yeah.
services to small businesses, and it just dawns on me how much these individuals just need help getting the great things they already do in front of the people who need it the most. And it turned marketing, and it kind of was building on something I was learning in college, but it just turned marketing into an act of service.
Mm.
If I have a headache and Courtney and John have Advil or aspirin, telling me they have it available
Yeah.
is not selling. It is service. And when I experienced that, I said, oh my gosh, like this is why I care about marketing. I care about the ability to evangelize solutions to people's problems. And it just changed my career from there. And then that opened me up to what kinds of things do I believe in that I would love to evangelize.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, I think that's one of the challenges. Like There is a negative connotation to marketing sometimes. I think I remember HubSpot putting up a sign not long, way back probably actually, Brian Halligan talking about marketers over here, one above or one below, I can't remember which way, used car salespeople. Nobody trusts you. We got to change the way the industry is at the moment. And it's, sometimes you sort of don't believe in the product you're selling in. But with the way you put it,
Mhm.
when there's a need out there and somebody really needs that product or that service that you have and you believe in it and you want to get it in front of those folks who have that headache, that pain, then it's doing a service to them, right?
It is. It is. It is. I mean, any of us who've been referred to a dentist or a doctor or a great book from a friend, none of us accused that friend of selling anything.
Yeah,
We called it helping.
yeah,
And that to me is how I see my job. So then the work for me just became, what do I believe in? And a big part of my journey has been self-development, professional development, personal development through books and content and mentorship. And so it lended me to say, I would love to have people come in contact with information that helps them transform themselves and grow their careers and build a great life. Excuse me. And that just led me to getting an opportunity. I left Emma and to work for Dave Ramsey, the financial, personal finance guy here in the United States, who has a
yeah.
radio show and best-selling author. And while I know he's controversial to many, um, I'm a beneficiary of what his content can do in your personal life. And then as I worked for him for 3 years, and then shortly after, my uncle was working with Tony Robbins on a project and said, "Hey, I think Tony Robbins needs your help. He's launching a book. Would you be interested in working for Tony Robbins and interviewing to launch a book?" I said, "Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't?" And we hit it off, and I got hired to launch Tony's best-selling book, Money Master the Game, back in 2014. And another friend of mine who had just gone to work for a talent agency said, "Hey, Oprah's doing her first live event tour. I think you'd be really great at it. Would you like? I can bring you in." And I just got to help work on Oprah's first live event tour and build the marketing strategy for that. And I don't say those names because I am in some way the most well-connected person. Because in many ways, when those calls are coming through, I was just as shocked as anybody else. Like, how? Who? What? Yes, of course. Um, but if anything else, it just really, I think I appreciate the fact that once I found my gifting, and then I found people I believed in and an approach I believed in, it opened up so many doors. And those three back to back kind of changed my career. Um, because at that point, it just opened up relationships and opportunities I haven't ever been able to, repay them individually just for how much they've changed my life.
I'm curious because you've worked with some phenomenal people. What's something you took away from those working relationships that kind of has influenced your thinking on marketing? As
Mm. Whew, a lot. But because you said marketing, I'll stick with marketing.
okay,
Um, One, I think that personal branding will always matter. Um, and also, personal branding can scale a business.
yeah,
And so I would think those are two. The other one is um, you have to sell. I mean, truthfully, you need to sell the message and principles and ideology behind what you do. Yes, I can say, here's our mission, our purpose, and that's a aspiration of where we're headed, and that's great. I'm talking about what are the principles that sit underneath it. So, for example, though these three individuals have maybe present their ideology in different ways, they all share one belief, right? Better is possible.
yeah, yeah.
If you don't have a growth mindset, it's going to be hard to enjoy Oprah, Tony, or Dave. If
You have
you
to be
have a
open to
growth,
it. You have to have that
you
growth
have to,
mindset.
if you don't have a growth mindset at all. Now because of that, they make sure their marketing teaches you how to have one.
Hmm.
Before you buy the product, Tony's content is designed to help you develop a growth mindset. Once you develop a growth mindset, all of his products become available to you, right? Because if you don't have a growth mindset, why sell it to you? He
Yeah.
wouldn't think it's possible. You think you're fixed. So his marketing does the work of convincing you that you're not a finished product, that you can evolve, that better is possible, and then what is the area you want to improve? Dave does the same thing, right? It's very different how he does it, right? But each of them try to sell you on the ideology before you get into the products that fit your needs. So that's from a mechanical and tactical perspective. That's when they taught me. But the personal brand side, Dave at this point is a $300 million company.
Yeah.
Oprah, obviously, $1 billion,
Brilliant.
right? And each of them built, and Tony, very similar. So the idea of you being told personal brands don't scale, you can't build a personal brand. I'm like, well, that's not true. It's what you do, and that's a big part of my work now. Is actually how people build personal brands, and then leverage a personal brand to grow a scalable business that eventually can go on without them. And I can. Those people are the ones who taught me what I know about how to do it.
And I feel like that is so important these days. Is there's more trust in the individual than there's in a corporation. People want to know who they're dealing with, who that individual is, and I feel like there's a competitive advantage in there for small businesses. But so many founders and CEOs are resistant, whether it's, I guess, don't want to kind of shine the limelight on me. I'm humble, or I just don't want to do it. Don't want to put the effort in. But there's something in this that is so important, and yeah, I just feel like you've got to go out there and you've actually got to build your personal brand. But there's a big struggle to go back to what you were saying about Tony and Oprah, and that is that there's this realization that they've got to educate you about. You've got to have the open mind and be educated that this is important to do.
Yeah, and we've been trained to know that people, for us, all of us, that people trust people more than they trust organizations and brands.
Yeah.
I will trust your recommendation on an airline. I will trust your recommendation on a dentist and a doctor before I trust anything else, because the marketing is designed to persuade me to buy into this idea. I trust you to look out for me, but more than I would trust the marketer. The marketer is being paid to persuade me to say yes. So that's true. But that also means this: our job is to understand that people will believe in their idea our idea or our product when they believe in us. And so our job is to say, as an owner, as a leader, yes, that might create a personal brand. I'm really trying to have you trust me, and then say, if you're willing to trust me,
Yeah.
I am going to share. I'm going to use my influence with you to say, you can trust these people that I lead as well. If you've come to trust me, then I'm going to ask you to get to trust me enough to know I would not recommend something that won't serve you well. And most of it, I think, requires us to change what brand means. Right? When we think brand means notoriety or profile or awareness, you can think personal brand equals the Kardashians.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
Because you think, and that's not what a brand is. A brand is a reputation. And when we look at the definition of what a brand is, right? I mean, it's the story people tell themselves about who you are and how it makes them feel. What is a reputation? The generally held beliefs about someone or something. It's a reputation. They're almost synonymous. Now, what most of us are thinking is a personal platform. A personal platform is when you have direct access to an audience. Yes, the Kardashians have a platform.
Yeah.
Yes, Dave Ramsey has a platform. He has 7 million whatever radio listeners every week. He has a platform. The reputation and the reputation might earn you the platform. You might have a platform and have a terrible reputation. There are plenty of people who have a platform that we all do not trust, or we think terribly about their reputation, right? I mean, I'm not here to pick at him just as an example. Howard Stern, as a radio show host, has a platform. He has a reputation as well. But I don't think you're going to listen to a Howard Stern radio program because of his wisdom and how he's going to help you build a great life. That's not what his reputation is built off of.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can have a great reputation and have a platform. You can have one or the other depending on how you got there. Right. And so I think the key thing is making sure we say, okay, with that being said, what really makes a personal brand powerful in 2025 is that a reputation now is infinitely scalable because of digital media. That's the difference. I used to be the best baker in my hometown. Now the world, because of me showing my stuff on YouTube or Instagram, you may hear about what I bake, even if you're not even in a position to taste it.
God, yeah.
Because of how it gets shared. And that's the difference. Is a personal brand is just now more scalable than it was 40 years ago. But it's always been the same because people always trust people more than they trust organizations and brands.
So this goes back to something that you spoke about at Small Giants. You're building a reputation, which takes time, but there are these, I guess, you talked about some research on things like bids and magical kind of moments and bridging expectations and experience. But and we can kind of go into each of those, but I think fundamentally it's building a reputation takes time. This doesn't come overnight. And you got to think of your whole business and the journey that customer is going on. And are you kind of building that reputation, I guess, all the way along? Are you bridging that sort of gap between their expectations and what their experience is through the whole interaction with you? But that's hard work and it takes time. And are people with...
yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, no, I didn't cut you off. Finish that last thought.
I was going to say, are folks really willing to invest in building their reputation? And it's such an important part of growing your business.
And I would even say this for all of us. Hopefully, when you hear what you said, they feel a certain level of relief that they don't have to have a silver bullet that does it all in one day. So this is not meant to be something that you feel overwhelmed by, because it is in the daily activity which you already do that it happens. The second thing I would say is that a reputation, by definition, if it is the generally held beliefs about someone or something, we can also say reputation is not in my control. It lives in the heads and hearts of others. So I don't need to feel like I can control it, because it's not in my control.
Yeah.
But I have influence over it. And I think that what I want you to say is how am I going to steward my influence versus regain control? We've seen a lot of brands where in order to maintain control, they do nothing. Hey, don't say anything that could possibly, hey, if you give that one customer the upgrade, you got to give to everybody, so don't give anybody upgrades. And you start making these rules and policies to just not make anybody mad so you can protect reputation. And that's not what this is, because every individual is going to have their perspective regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
So the key thing would be, okay, my first thought is, if that's the case, I get to decide what would I like people's perception to be. Then one, if I create that perception, is it true? One of the things I talk about, a really great brand, aka reputation, is a true story. It's a true story. I don't know if you do all, but there are restaurants I've heard of that the waiters are intentionally rude to you.
Yes. I've been to a few of those.
And they're right. And they're popular because people come to experience these waiters being rude to you.
Yes.
Right? It's almost like a dinner theater of sorts, right? But here's the thing. People show up to be disrespected. That's the ironic part. You can sell anything when the experience is true, right? People ride Spirit Airlines knowing they're going to be nickel and dime for a pillow, a seatbelt almost, right? If the government didn't require a seatbelt, Spirit would sell it to you, right? But the key thing is, you go and that's what you expected.
Yes.
So you're not frustrated by it. And I think it's really important to understand that's what makes it true. So first of all, we want to make sure we're setting expectations, because reputation is born in how our experience aligns with our expectations. And so our job is to say, okay, if they're going to create a story or have a belief about who we are based on what they experience, let's set an expectation we can actually meet. Because that's where trust is actually created. You did what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And you did it again, and then you did it again, and then you did it again. If I cannot meet that expectation, I would rather change the expectation so that's what you're going to get.
So make sure that you've got that really, really clear for your customers. Set the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes things go wrong, right? Sometimes we set expectations, set 1, 2, 3 times, it all goes right, but sometimes something goes wrong, and you find yourself. For me, the most challenging thing is when I don't have information or communication. Like, I don't know what's going on right now. I just bought an apartment down in South Africa, and that's where I am at the moment. We're trying to get the internet in, and for days we just aren't sure where we're at and what's going on. You can't get in touch with anybody, and that the expectations just kind of fall apart. Oh, take a couple of days and we'd be able to communicate if there's a problem. But when those expectations kind of aren't met, I almost feel like it does come down to very simply just communicating what's going on, because things do go wrong. But you probably have a very different perspective on that. What is it that about building that bridge between what the expectations are and what the experience is that the client's getting, and when things go wrong?
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is, so I share this at Small Giants. When you look at the research of what makes great relationships, and I think that's the first thing, we're not having a brand conversation.
Yeah.
We're not having a business conversation. We're having a people conversation. And I think when we can recognize that, oh yeah, this is not about brands and business, it's about people. People, what does it take to make a great relationship with another human being?
Love it. Yeah.
Well, right? And so humans are all walking around asking one subconscious question. Can I count on you?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the question. Not even do I like you. Can I count on you? And I would even go as far as to say, it's can I count on you to be who you said you were? Because people will believe what you say about who you are until proven otherwise.
So we intrinsically trust people to start with. We
do. We do. Most of us intrinsically trust people to be who they say they are until proven otherwise. Now, once you say who you are, that is an expectation.
Set.
That it can be that simple. So that's why I talk about people like, well, that's why I have a lot of my clients refine their elevator pitch as a personal brand, because like, hey, once you say that line, this is what I do. You give them an expectation, and they're going to believe you. Then your job will be, okay, now, what happens, to answer your question, what happens when it doesn't go right? But then my job is, okay, to deliver on that as best I can. Well, I fell short. What happens? Well, what's happening is people are dealing with us. Each person comes to us. So let's take today. I was humbled to be invited on this podcast. Your team, both Courtney and the Small Giants team, said, Kevin's a decent guy. He's going to be there. He's going to be there. He's going to be prepared. He's going to be excited. He's going to bring energy. He's going to be great for the podcast. Now that's your expectation.
Yeah.
I could be under the weather. I could have said, I can't give you my best, let's reschedule. But as long as I don't no-show and with no communication.
Yeah.
Right? Almost every single thing that would have still been under what you desired. But I could have prepared it. Because now once we're here, you're answering other questions, such as, hey, well, when I show up, is he going to be prepared? Is he going to be kind? These are all what they call, what Dr. John and Julie Gottman relationship therapists and relationship experts, they call them bids. These are these subconscious desires for connection, and I would even say these subconscious desires to have for our needs to be met and answer the question, can I count on you? Is Kevin going to be kind? Is Kevin going to be warm? Has Kevin listened to this podcast before? Does he know who we're talking to? These are all things we would say, does Kevin respect me? Because that's the question you actually care about way more than anything else, right? So here I am. I'll be honest, I'm probably super intimidated. I'm like, okay, is it okay? Moncrief, am I pronouncing it right? I want him to feel like I actually care to say his name the right way, right? Because I understand I'm answering a bigger question.
Yeah.
So I'd rather say, pause, how do I say your name correctly? How does your family say your name, right? Because I want to show a respect for you. So actually, that's a genuine question. How do your family say your name?
Moncrief. And you got it
right?
right on, Kevin. Yeah.
But if I say it, but I'd rather repair it by just doing saying, I want to show respect for you so badly. Just ask if I'm saying your name correctly.
Yes.
Rather than saying it wrong 25 times. Because as a human being, that's the question you care about. Does Kevin showing up late for the podcast is not he's throwing my schedule off. He doesn't respect me. Kevin not reading the notes before I send him is not about does he care about his topic? Is he knowledgeable? Does he respect me? Those are subconscious bids that go beneath all the other stuff. And I can, if I make a mistake, if I did show up late, if I did say your name wrong, the next thing to do is to try to repair. And actually, according to the research, trying to make things right actually is just as powerful in trust building, not damage control, but actual trust building, because it shows the person not that you're human, well, we all know that, it's that you actually care about living up to the expectations.
Yeah.
That the expectations you set actually are still true. Enough that when something falls apart, you will do what is necessary to fix it. That means I can still count on you, because I count on you to do it right or fix it if it doesn't go right. That's really all I need to know.
And we've all had that experience, right? Like I think you used a great example, being in the restaurant where, hey, pizza hasn't arrived. Kevin, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get that team in the kitchen. We're going to get it out for you in 3 minutes. I apologize for you're repairing there, right? That's that. That's
right.
And you had an interesting statistic. Was it 86%?
It is. Yes, it's right. So what does it take for someone to actually fucking count on you? The research shows, and it started with marriage research, which is so cool. It started with, they found out that in marriages, the couples that have marital fights the most versus the couple that was not an indicator of marital happiness and success. You can have just as many fights as the couple you don't want to be. But whoever answers the highest percentage of bids, and they found out if you answer 33% or less of bids, the relationship is doomed to end eventually.
Now, what we're talking about for the audience, right? A bid could be a sigh, kind of walking in, or a question. A bid is kind of almost
That's right.
A little signal.
It is. And think about it. It's your wife getting her hair done, and you just walk by her for 3 days in a row and never say, hey, honey, your hair looks nice. Right? And the thing about it is you knew she went to the salon. She said, today I'm going to the salon to get my hair done.
Yeah.
Then she walks in and you say, hey, what's for dinner? Right? Like, that's a subconscious bid to be acknowledged. Right? And in business, happens all the time. It's the customer who says, hey, the order I requested didn't arrive on time. Okay, you can say, well, it got there, didn't it? Well, yes, but the person reaching out to you to bring it up, that is a bid to be acknowledged, to let them understand that you understand their frustration, for empathy, for compassion, to make amends. If it is a person saying, hey, I'm here today, I don't have a lot of time to shop, but because I've got to go, I'm picking up a quick gift for my mom for Mother's Day. Okay, they said I've got can you show me what might be a good thing to get her here? Respect my time is really important. Like, these are all these bids. They're communicating them wrapped up in all kinds of tasks. But our job is, okay, there's something bigger that they're asking me to solve. Yes, meet their request, but what is the need or the subconscious thing we're trying to meet? And so in business, our jobs are going to say, okay, well, if I can answer this consistently enough, which according to research, if you answer 86% of these conscious and subconscious bids, you will have a strong relationship with your customer, with your kids, with your spouse, with your employees, because every human being is doing this. Because once you can be considered 80% or higher, you're deemed reliable. And that means I'm likely to stay with you even though you have 14% of mishaps. Because I would have to then try a competitor and hope they'll be this reliable. Now I have risk involved. I'm not going anywhere. You meet my needs 86% of the time. Why would I run the risk
of moving to
right, for someone possibly not being as reliable as you are? We go to McDonald's in the United States. We go to the McDonald's because we know we can predictably eat a subpar burger.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it is predictably subpar. I am eating at McDonald's because of its predictability, not its quality.
Yeah.
And so it's our job to say, okay, that's how I can retain customers, retain team members, is by me showing up and delivering reliably. And that means meeting 86% of the bids. It's okay if I make a mistake. I can actually still hit the bid by making it right. So perfection's not the goal.
Yeah. And there's a new restaurant in town we could go, or a new fast food joint or whatever in town we could go and try. But hang on, we trust. That's why we stick in with it. And that's
right. I'm hungry right now.
Yeah, and that's one of the fundamentals, I guess, of a business. It's like dig that moat around it, and you're digging that moat is building the trust, is kind of building the reputation, and is being able to recognize those bids. And I don't think we don't look out for those bids. You just got to watch out. Customers coming in, what are the bids?
That's it.
Yeah.
I love that. What are the bids? What is the bid they're walking in with?
Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking of another similar situation with same challenge with the bids. I got into a piece of software that we were testing. The 14-day trial, it kind of ran out and the price was a lot higher than I imagined it to be. Basically, I hadn't bundled the two together during the trial, so they charged me separately. Courtney's also running a trial, and that's how I knew that it was a lot cheaper. He obviously picked up on the bids, probably been trained very well, and he said, tell you what, let me refund yours entirely. Courtney's is going to come off. Even you heard kind of name in that. Courtney's will come off. We're good with that. If you're not going to go ahead with the trial yourself, then that's fine. Otherwise, just repackage it this way and you're good to go. It was Motion VFX or something. We'll talk about them and the experience. And that goes back to the referrals that you were talking about. When I talk to somebody, the referral. So, there's that example. The way he handled it. Could hear, I was frustrated, obviously, in the way I was chatting to him. Refund the money for you, no problem. We're going to get another deal from the other trial anyway, and you'll probably sign up because the delta between 700 and 500, for two is 1,000, so it's a couple of $100. You're probably going to sign up. Yeah. So there's a practical example for the audience. It happened yesterday.
It is. So what happened for me about a week or so ago? My wife and a lot of her friends came to town, and I bought them all dinner for my wife's birthday. And I showed up late to pick up the takeout order for them. Now I didn't know how late was late. I ordered it online, and I got stuck finishing a task to prepare for the party, and I didn't get there on time. They threw the food away, and they said they called me, but I had no missed calls. And the dinner was $250, something like that, and they threw it all away. And I was like, well, one, I just wish you called me.
Yeah.
It just said, hey, you got to be here by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever the time was, just tell me. I had no idea. And they pretty much said, you have to buy it again. Sorry. I don't think she even said sorry. She said, you got to buy it again if you want us to do it. I don't have the order. And I said, I showed her my phone. I have no missed calls. I called you 3 times. I said, well, what number did you call? I don't know. Okay. Well, I can show you my. So eventually, the lady doesn't help me. I drive off, and I say, "Can I talk to the what's the manager's name? She give me the managing partner's name, all this great stuff." And I am boiling on the inside. I'm pretty sure my kids can see steam coming from my head, and they're in the back seat. And she calls me back about 20 minutes later and says, "Hey, Mr. Jennings, if you don't mind coming back, we're going to make the food for you. Be ready in 15 minutes." And 2 of the meals included steak. Okay. And so what gets me is this. The lady talks to me for 15 minutes, tells me why I can't get my food again. 20 minutes later, she makes food in 15 minutes. She could have made the meal again in the time we talked. But here's what I learned. For as leaders, she wasn't empowered by the leader to fix my problem.
Yeah.
And so she had a spirit in herself to make amends. But she couldn't even reveal her desire to fix it because she didn't know if the boss would approve her fixing it. So she tried to tell so even though she fixed it for me in the end, within 45 minutes, an hour of our conversation, I still don't want to go to the restaurant ever again.
Yeah.
Because she was so cold and she didn't even say, "Sir, I'm so sorry. Let me see what I can do." No, it was a cold, somewhat heartless response. And I'm saying to myself, now I feel like my bid for being seen and having compassion for my tardiness as I prepared for a party for my wife, you still missed the boat on all of my bids. I've got 2 small children in the back seat. They've been with me while I'm trying to decorate for a party. I am tired, and there's no compassion. So yes, you gave me the meal, but you didn't hit any of the bids. I have zero trust.
Yeah.
Even though I understand why you didn't do it. But so some of us so a big part of one of my case studies in my talk is Chick-fil-A.
Yes, I was just thinking
They've given teenagers, and they have a whole thing they published called the DARE model. They teach teenagers how to make amends when it goes wrong. And then they liberate them to just fix it. So the 16-year-old doesn't have to say, "Oh no, I have an adult who's mad at me. I got to call the boss." They just say, "I can do that for you, sir. I can do that for you, ma'am." And what that does is, first of all, it repairs trust quickly. We can answer bids faster. And more importantly, it doesn't take the bottleneck off of taking care of people, which only accelerates trust. As I shared with the group at Small Giants, Chick-fil-A has a 92% order accuracy rate.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But they have a 97% customer satisfaction rate.
Yeah.
So they're 5% of their orders are always wrong, and those people are still satisfied because they have a process of systematically making a bid, answering a bid, and making it right and repairing that prevents those people from even registering that the experience was bad.
And I think when you put that into context of what that actual number was a few 100,000 orders that went wrong a day or something like that. I think the percentages are one thing.
386,000.
Exactly.
386,000 orders a day.
That go wrong, but they still have this high trust. And that's
high trust.
Empowering your employees to be able to keep that reputation up, to build the trust, and to repair trust when things go wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how the bridge of trust is built. It's not just by making it right for that person. It's that person tells their friends. For example, Chick-fil-A's target demographic is moms. It's moms. They're the ones who really push, because they're the ones who are taking their kids by on the Saturday morning before they go to the soccer game to get breakfast. They're the ones who are picking all the kids up, typically taking them through it on an afternoon before practice, after school. And it's not just because of moms, because I mean, but it's the fact that the mom trusts that they can take their kids there, give them high quality ingredients, get the orders right. It's a trust in that. But then the moms tell the other moms.
Yeah. And they word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, and so the the bridge of trust, again, a reputation building is because Courtney trusts it, I trust it.
Yeah.
And now I'm showing up believing because of your experience, Courtney's experience, or, you know, it's like they had a good experience and they told me to come. The bridge of trust has an exponential impact. And then when you enter my bids, I feel I gain the same comfort that you had when you told me to go. And I can repeat that experience. And so we turn our customers, I mean, people will not just believe what you say about who you are, they'll start repeating what you say about who you are. And that's when the magic really kicks in.
Yeah, I'm curious as well about your thoughts on where we are right now in terms of there's a lot of uncertainty going on, and I think a lot of the businesses I've spoken to are struggling at the moment. They're struggling because of just the uncertainty that's going on around them, and they're trying to figure out what to do. But the knee-jerk reaction right now is to kind of cut back, to almost kind of insulate, batten down the hatches. What do you? I'm curious about what your thoughts on in terms of what business leaders should be thinking right now to make sure that they're looking after their customers and they're bridging the gap, but that they're going to navigate the tough waters that we're going through right now.
Yeah, I have a two-part answer. Part one is what the leader needs to do, and part two is what the organization has to do. Part one, I would say, is this: leadership always comes with uncertainty. If you're going to a place you've never been, you're going to likely be doing things you've never done.
Mm-hmm.
And leaders are known to maintain their ambition even in times of uncertainty, right? And so I'm talking to a gentleman who just acquired another organization, right? So I'm buying an apartment in South Africa. So clearly, even amidst uncertainty, we are still doing new things.
Yeah.
Right? And so the key thing I'll say is this: there are 4 core competencies or 4 core assets you need when you're navigating uncertainty, because it's really about how you navigate uncertainty versus guaranteeing certainty. So you're going to always need capacity. You need capacity, and that can be resources, it can be time. You need capacity. Capacity could be new skills, right? You have to, how am I growing my capacity so I can have more tools and more abilities to respond to what comes my way? The second thing you're going to need is you will always need credibility, right? And your credibility doesn't have to be, I'm the best in the world at something. It can be something like, hey, I know what it's like to go through this before. It can be, you know what, I do have these particular set of skills. It could be, I have whatever. But we got to find points of credibility that we can depend on and leverage. Because, again, we're trying to build trust. We need people to trust us, whether it be our customers, our team members, investors. Credibility is going to matter in times of uncertainty. Then, yes, you are going to need clarity. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And what is our plan to get there, right? And so even in times of uncertainty, you can even be clear about the obstacles. I'm clear. This is our obstacle here, but here's where we're going. And here's how we're going to go around it. So fight for clarity, because that's what because clarity is often all we need to navigate uncertainty. And then the last thing is you will need courage. Because at the end of the day, you can have clarity on what you're doing and what you're up against. You may be the most credible person in for the topic. You might even have capacity. But at some point, you're going to have to still muster the courage to face what might be an uncertain outcome.
Yeah.
And I want to own that part. It can be summoned. I do believe that that courage can be summoned, and it's something we have to practice summoning, and we do it through our convictions. Like, what do I believe about this? That is so important to me that even if it doesn't go right, the belief in and of itself is worth fighting for. Right. The other thing is, I can own what is the consequence of inaction. Sitting still will actually cause just as much pain. And if you can remind yourself of the consequence, that might give you some level of courage as well. And then the last one, is there a noble cause that's just worth fighting for?
Yeah.
Hey, this cause, if I don't get all the way there, I think about a nonprofit like Charity Water and
Yeah.
Scott
Scott
Harrison, what
Harrison.
they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, right? Like, if they don't finish the whole mission before Scott dies, was it worth the effort? Of course it was. Of course it was worth it. I believe what he's doing is worth it. I hope he feels that way, right? Because those three things help you summon courage even when you're facing an uncertain outcome. And so I recommend those be the four. Now,
So
for the organization,
capacity, credibility, clarity, and courage, and a noble cause. And maybe, like as you were talking, thinking about, we sail through rough times, and you got to have the clarity of where you're going. Where is it that you're headed? You got to have the credibility as a leader that the folks are going to kind of follow you as you sail through. The courage to navigate those waters, and I suppose the capacity to actually kind of get the ship across to something is, yeah. So that's as an individual. As an organization?
As an organization, this is a time to double down on the basics and keep the main thing the main thing. And here's what I mean. So, oh no, I'm going to be very transparent here with the audience. In America, we've seen what's happened since 2020 as far as so many organizations taking on social justice and weaving it into their philanthropic initiatives.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I understand that right now, geopolitically speaking, no company probably wants to be caught in the crosshairs of that, just given the geopolitical landscape of what that could mean. And you might say, well, what does that mean, Kevin, for this? In moments of uncertainty, instead of trying to be quiet about a program, sunset a program, you could have all just said, we're going to just treat our customers better.
Yeah.
We're going to solve their problems better. I don't know if the average company has been looking to Coca-Cola or Procter & Gamble to fix all of the world's social problems. I never have. I've never thought that a company would save my family from injustice or racism or sexism with a daughter. That's not what I'm thinking. What I am saying, though, is this. Make sure your company is not sexist. Make sure your company treats people well. Make sure your customers just solve it in your organization. Double down on the basics for you. So that means this. Your job is to make sure, does our product solve the problems our customers are facing in today's times? Right? So about last year, actually, CEO of Kellogg's comes out and says, we know there's economic distress, so feed your kids cereal for dinner. And that's what's going to help you save money. I wish I was making this up. I wish I was making this up. He's like, we think that as parents face economic uncertainty, cereal is going to be a great alternative for dinner. And you're like,
seriously?
What? It's like, come on, man. Like, it's like when childhood obesity is at its highest it ever be. Like,
sugar them up.
Please, like,
send them to bed on sugar.
And our party's looking around like, is he joking? Right? And of course, you understand he's selling shareholders on how they're going to increase cereal sales.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, Kellogg's creates so many other products. He could have even said, and this is why we're launching a line of food that can easily be done this, or here's how you can access. Like, there were so many other ways to answer that question. He could have said, we're tight of our supply chain to keep our costs from going up. Like, we're doing a vertical integration. Like, he could have sold 1,000 strategies on how he was going to serve customers in this time. And then he just said, give your kids cereal for dinner. And these are the moments when you say to yourself, okay, this is what, that means anything else you do, if he gives to 1,000 schools and puts money, it's going to all feel performative. Because we now know as a group, it's not a true story.
No. And I mean, the signals are there already.
It's not a true story.
We're talking about the bids earlier. The bids are, how do I make sure my children are healthier? How to give them cereal for dinner? It's not listening to.
Couldn't say it better myself. Like, the bid was missed.
Yeah.
You're acknowledging they're in a season where saying, do you see me? Like, yeah, I see you. Times are hard. A situation is going on. And you're actually telling me, I see you got a challenge. And then you say, and here's your answer, which told me you didn't care about helping me one bit.
Exactly, yeah. Trust eroded.
And now, and honestly, I have struggled to buy Kellogg's cereal since then.
Yeah.
For anything. Because now I feel like I'm supporting an organization that has no desire to meet the needs of their customers. You don't care about us.
You just and shareholders. Yeah.
You don't care about us. So that and so I would say for you to say, that means you don't have to make a big statement. You don't, in uncertainty, you just say, hey guys, we're going to double down on making sure we are equipped to show up for our customers by one, solving their problems, making sure our problems are, making sure our products solve the problem better, and then we're going to say, how can we answer the emerging bids that they may not have had before? And that typically comes from making what you're doing stronger. Mm. That's all. It doesn't usually require entering a new market or launching a new product line. It's strengthening how we do what we do, finding a way to do it better, so that just like that 17-year-old at Chick-fil-A who you trust has the ability to just make you a new set of fries if your fries are cold. They can just go do it. They don't have to talk to a manager. Like empower your team to actually meet the bids of your clients and customers, and just make sure you're doubling down on what works. And so I would encourage people, in times of uncertainty, you don't need to do more if you do what you do currently better.
Love it. Yeah. Listen for those bids. Listen. I love the way you put it. Listen to how the bids are changing. And it's just listening to what your customers are saying. One last thought or question. The podcast is called The Freedom Experience, and I'm interested. What does freedom mean to you, to Kevin?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think freedom for me now would probably be very much connected to my corporate purpose. And that is what I call it, the great life. And it is about doing great work with great people, for great people, in a way that allows the people around me to actually create a great life for themselves and others. And I don't think I would always say it that way, but I do believe that I have an opportunity to, what for me personally is I want to die empty. I would love to say, when it's all said and done, I gave everything I had, and that to my family, to my friends, to my community, but also to my customers and clients, because I actually believe, people listening to this podcast, you're special. You're special. Yeah. Why? Because people don't always use their free time to consume content like this, to have conversations like this. The fact that you would know your audience would care to even understand bids says something about the kinds of people who are hanging out with us right now.
Yeah, exactly. Who are listening to us. And
Yeah. You're the kinds of people who recognize your work in the market can make a difference in somebody's life. And because of that reality, to me, that is freedom. That we get to, that I and you get to actually build a better world using our gifts and abilities. Things that don't feel like work to us, but to, all because of our passion and our conviction and our desire. So to me, that is freedom, and that I can I can help build a better world using what I love to do. This conversation, hanging out with you, this is a treat to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that this could in any way, shape, form, or fashion be considered me adding value to the world, it's like, I want to pinch myself. And so I think it really is it. So that is the freedom that I really desire to have, and to turn what's in my head into things that are real, that add value to others. It really is freedom to me.
What's interesting is we started this podcast. Our conversation before we started was me telling you a little bit about myself and my thinking for Small Giants, and you said the hair kind of stood up. Same thing just happened to me as you talked about. What do you think about as freedom and the mission that you're on? And it kind of gives you those tingles, and kind of started on that note and ending on that note. But I am so grateful for you coming on, Kevin, and just sharing your wisdom, sharing your passion with our audience. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And you will have a guy in your corner that don't let the podcast is an extension of real life. There are people you meet every once in a while, you're like, they're the real deal. And it's not just because they're smart or brilliant or experienced. It's because their heart is real. And what you see is what you're really getting. And the man who sits before you and hosts this podcast actually cares about you when you're not around. And so if you're listening, I encourage you to stick around and subscribe, because this guy is a person who actually cares about your success, whether he ever gets to see you or interact with you or not. And you're in a place of authentic leadership. And I think that really matters. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. If you don't feel Kevin's passion through your headphones, then maybe you should check your pulse. I love how he makes trust feel so human. Those small bids, the power of keeping your word, and how marketing can really be an act of service. Kevin, thank you for your energy and for reminding us that freedom is about using our gifts to make the world a better place every day. If you want more information about the Small Giants community, or you're curious about upcoming programs, our passport events, our leadership academy, then head on over to smallgiants.org and you can find information there. All the information about Kevin is in the show notes below. And if you enjoyed this episode, then please share it with someone who'd appreciate Kevin's message. If you haven't yet hit the follow button on wherever you listen to podcasts or watch, then please hit the follow button. Give us a rating. We'd love a 5-star rating. It helps us to get in front of more entrepreneurs, to get more great guests, and just keep spreading the message. See you again in the next episode.